In the spring of 1221, the city of Merv, a jewel of the Islamic Golden Age, capitulated to the oncoming tide of Mongol horsemen. Soon after, a silence fell over the ancient city, one punctuated only by the dreadful rhythm of the Mongol sword. Eyewitnesses and historians alike described what followed as a massacre utterly without precedent. The invaders, methodical and implacable, did not simply raid and ride on. They instituted what seemed an industrial process of destruction, assigning every soldier a quota, 300, sometimes 400 lives for each. When the work was done, the numbers boggled the mind, more than 700,000 dead. Word of this cataclysm radiated outward faster than even the swiftest Mongol scout, laying the groundwork for a legend that would reshape the medieval world. How could such a thing have come to pass? How could a people known a generation earlier for dwelling in yurts, living by the bow and the herd on the high steppe, topple the mighty kingdoms of Persia, China, and Russia, and send even Europe into paroxysms of dread? The answer lies in the terrifying brilliance of Mongol military science, a fusion of iron discipline, relentless training, boundless innovation, and a capacity for psychological warfare that nearly defies comprehension. To understand Mongol supremacy, one must begin at the source, the steppe warrior, forged from childhood in the saddle and the snow. Among the Mongols, riding was as innate as breathing. Before he could read, a boy would learn the ways of the horse. By 5, he could fire a bow, crafted by the hands of his own kin, while thundering at a gallop across the wide Mongolian plains. This was not a culture where war was a career for the few. It was a way of life for every man, woman, and child. Endurance was learned early and demanded always. On campaign, Mongol riders did not linger in camp tents. They slept draped over their horses' necks as they moved in the night. When food grew scarce, hunger did not cripple them. A small cut to the jugular vein of a pony, a bowl to catch the blood, and the mixture with a little mare's milk would sustain even the most arduous journey. Such measures required not only resourcefulness, but utter commitment to the aim at hand. For weapons, no tool was more essential than the composite bow. Shaped from layers of wood, horn, and animal sinew, glued together with patience and expertise, the Mongol bow was the product of both ancient tradition and persistent innovation. Compact enough for a mounted archer, yet powerful enough to launch an arrow through armored mail at distances surpassing 200 yards, it could loose shot after shot in the time it took a European archer to knock a single shaft. The bow was not just a weapon, but an extension of the very identity of the Mongol rider. But it was not merely the fighting spirit or superior tools that won the steppe empire the world. It was organization. And here Genghis Khan transformed what had been fractious clans into a war machine without peer. The decimal structure, the army broken into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, created a clear chain of command and allowed for tactical flexibility. Promotion was by merit, not birth. The lowliest herdsman, if he showed courage and cunning, might command a tumen, 10,000 men, and oversee cities and campaigns. Movement was the Mongols' first and greatest weapon. With each warrior maintaining a string of fresh horses, entire armies could sweep across the landscape with a speed that left enemies stunned. Riders traversed 100 miles or more each day, with scouts leapfrogging ahead, outflanking adversaries, and returning reports via a system of signals and relay posts that spanned the continent. A Mongol host could vanish into the grass only to reappear days later on the enemy's unguarded flank. Their tactical innovations upended the world's understanding of battle. Most famous among them was the feigned retreat, executed by elite Mangudai light cavalry. The Mongols would bait their opponents, then suddenly flee in what appeared to be chaos. Many an eager adversary gave chase, abandoning carefully prepared positions. Only too late would the trap spring. The Mongols, adept at firing backwards from the saddle, would rain arrows on the pursuers, then wheel about and charge with unmatched precision. The parting shot of legend was often the last thing an enemy saw. Battlefield communication was another crucial edge. A mixture of visual signals, Flags, banners, smoke, and auditory cues like whistling arrows maintained coordination even when units were miles apart or separated by dust and confusion. The Mongol army moved as if it possessed a single mind, a feat made possible by discipline, trust, and total adherence to the command structure Genghis had imposed. Preparation extended beyond the field of battle. Before embarking on a campaign, Mongols dispatched merchants, spies, and scouts to gather intelligence on every possible advantage: terrain, supply routes, political rifts among the target population. Nothing was left to chance, and entire cities might be spared or destroyed based on the tactical calculations of the Khan and his generals. Contrary to their nomadic origins, the Mongols mastered siegecraft with astonishing speed. Captured engineers from China, Persia, and elsewhere constructed elaborate machines: trebuchets, catapults, mangonels, and primitive gunpowder bombs. Rivers were dammed to flood cities or undermine walls, moats were filled by terrified prisoners forced to labor at sword point, and captured civilians sometimes compelled to march ahead as unwilling shields. But above all else, the Mongol genius lay in psychological warfare, a weapon as devastating as any sword or bow. Genghis Khan realized that rumors of unspeakable brutality could move mountains and open gates. In city after doomed city, messengers arrived ahead of the army bearing stories of annihilation, populations slaughtered, towers built of skulls. Resistance brought extinction. Surrender, swift and abject, might spare the inhabitants, though not always. The Mongols' use of their Yam relay station system allowed information, orders, and, crucially, terror to move across thousands of miles with shocking speed. The echo of Merv, Nishapur, and Baghdad heralded destruction long before the first hoofbeats reached the horizon. Yet for all their cruelty, it was tactical flexibility that truly defined them. Against armored knights, they kept their distance, picking off horses with arrows and refusing hand-to-hand combat. When arrayed against massed infantry, they relied on enveloping maneuvers, surrounding and annihilating their enemies. At Mohi, in Hungary, they built a bridge under cover of night to outmaneuver a seemingly secure stronghold. Everywhere, merit and adaptability trumped tradition and rank. Contrast this with the world they conquered. European armies, bound by feudal codes, moved ponderously, beset by internal rivalries. Chinese armies depended on massive infantry formations, unwieldy and slow. The Mongols relished such weakness. By the time the dust settled, their empire stretched from Korea to the very heart of Europe. Some 16% of the planet ruled on horseback. Today's military scholars still analyze Mongol campaigns for lessons in logistics, mobility, and shock effect. Their legacy lives on not only in legends of blood and hooves, but in the enduring principles of effective warfare. When the world first glimpsed that distant cloud of Mongol riders, few could have predicted the storm they would unleash. But with brilliance, brutality, and boundless adaptability, a scattered people reshaped the globe, reminding all who follow them that to triumph in war is not simply to wield strength, but to master mobility, innovation, and above all, the fearless power of the human will. If you enjoyed this historical journey, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Don't miss our upcoming content.